everyone, and welcome. My name is Lisa Bontasumi. I have been a mental health therapist here in Oakland for over 20 years. I'm super honored and proud to bring my experience to the Oakland Roots Sports Club as the mental health and sport performance specialist. It's important today to talk about these topics because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and the Roots are using this moment to launch a program called Love Your Mind with the support of our partners at Anthem Blue Cross. Love Your Mind is part of the Nurtured Roots, which we created to help our players and our community to live their best life on and off the field. We're so happy that we can host a discussion that is accessible to anyone who'd like to listen, learn, and join us in normalizing conversations about mental health. So welcome again. We are so happy and excited that you're here with us. Before we get started, there is a trigger warning associated with this content. If you haven't heard this term, this means that the content we will explore may evoke some deep emotions within you. Be attentive to this and take care of yourself accordingly. This content contains discussion about suicide. If you or someone else you know are experiencing thoughts of harming yourself or suicidal tendencies, please call or chat the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. So really, what is mental health? That's the big question. Everyone has mental health, just like we all have physical health. With an inadequate amount of accurate information and education, the lines between what mental health is, what mental health challenges are, and what mental illness is can be very blurred. Mental health is when we are able to achieve and maintain emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Each human is born with their unique mental health. Again, as we are born with our own unique physical health. When we experience life stressors, unforeseen events in our lives, and or a strained relationship, for example, our level of mental health can be challenged. Knowing how to cope by employing tools and practices as well as accessing resources will help in keeping our mental health optimal. Sometimes mental health challenges can become so severe that they impact most areas of our life, to the point that the individual is not able to function like they used to. This is when mental health challenges can become mental illnesses. Some examples of mental illnesses are depression, anxiety, and eating disorders. Feeling suicidal and then acting on those feelings is the most severe manifestation of depression. Just like physical illness, mental illness can be managed and treated. Individuals can have mental illness and take care of themselves in healthy ways so that the impact of their life is minimal. With that said, let's dive into our conversation. I'd like Chris Melanab and Nana Aptakora to introduce themselves.
Yeah, I'm Chris Melanab, assistant coach here with the Oakland Roots SC. I've been an assistant coach in the USL Championship for 8 seasons now. I live with bipolar disorder 2 and am a suicide attempt survivor.
I'm Nana Aptakora, also assistant coach with Chris. I'm recently retired from a 15-year professional career. Yeah, that's who I am.
This is gonna be fun. We're gonna be who we are. And just a side note, I hope everybody's out there being safe, wearing masks. You know, here in this room, it's a subjective decision about what we want to do, but we're all fully vaccinated, and I hope you guys are all staying safe. So let's get started. Nana, I'm gonna start with you. What life experiences have led you to be passionate about having conversations about mental health?
Well, I come from a community where mental health isn't a real thing. You know, if you speak about being sad, you need to toughen up. So for me, it was growing up like this. I buried a lot of my emotions. And I used to think burying my emotions would mean I was being tough, and I was being strong, and it was very manly, right?
Right.
If I'm gonna be honest, it wasn't until last year where everything hit me like a ton of bricks. And that's when I realized the importance of my mental health. As we're gonna probably talk about later on today, I've been through a lot of traumas, and through those experiences led me to this moment right here.
Thank you for that. Chris, in our society, it is normal to talk about our physical health, especially in sports and as athletes. But when it comes to talking about mental health, it's not often a topic of discussion. When were you first aware of the term mental health, and how was it explained to you?
Honestly, I didn't know what it was until 2006 when I was diagnosed with bipolar II disorder. I thought everything was the same, being sad, being depressed. I thought it was all linked to the same, and then I started to learn that feelings, moods, emotions are different things. And honestly though, I still didn't accept that mental health was as important as physical health. For 13 years or so, I was hiding it, to be honest. And like I would go to therapy and I would park my car, I would look around, I would make sure nobody I might know could see me. And at that point I would quickly run into the therapist's office. So for me, that's when the term was introduced to me, but then over the last 3 years is really when I understood that mental health is something that we can work on, something that we can develop to stay healthy.
Exactly. It sounded like there was a couple things going on for you there, like the distinction between mental health and mental illness wasn't clear.
Yeah.
And then there was some shame about finally admitting that maybe you needed some help and wanted the help, and then like, oh my God, what are people going to think about me? So I think that's really important to talk about, so thank you for that. Nana, race, ethnicity, and family have a huge impact on how we see the world around us. How do these factors influence how you understood mental health initially and how you understand it now?
Like I said earlier, for me, everything dates back to just my upbringing. You know, I come from a community where it's not okay to talk about. You can't be sad, you know, so.
What community do you come from?
I'm from Toronto, Canada.
Okay.
I grew up in a city called Brampton, which is just outside of Toronto.
Okay.
Very multicultural, extremely multicultural, similar to Oakland. And then I also have a family of a lot of strong, independent Black men and women. So my dad, who he moved away when I was 11 years old, so I didn't have that figure I could go to when I was, sad or whatever it was. Me and my mom are extremely close, but as a young Black boy, it wasn't easy going to my mom with a lot of stuff I dealt with. So those experiences and through soccer, I was alone a lot from 10 years old. So I didn't have, close friends I could go to when I was down. I dealt with everything internally. And just that upbringing was like that until I'm 30 years old. And I thought it was cool. Like I said earlier, I thought it was cool to be very independent, show no emotion.
Be strong. Right.
And I had a sister who would always tell me, at one point, it's all gonna hit you. And it was, excuse my language, but it was just, shut up. Like, that's not true until last year. And through last year, finally opening up to both family and friends, I realized they're here and they support me. So through that is where this whole change started.
I mean, the points you're making are super important. Culture, race, a support system, feeling that people have your back, people feeling like your family aren't going to judge you or abandon you. Because already it can be isolating to come to this new place of understanding in myself that, oh my gosh, but I have mental health, how do I best take care of it? And no one ever talking to you about it. Yeah. I appreciate that. Chris, what does it mean to you to be part of a club, a professional soccer team where you're the coach, that emphasizes conversations like the one we're having right now? I mean, you and I both know, and Nana too, that this is not normal or usual, right? How does it feel to be able to have it?
Well, obviously, I'm honored to be part of an organization that is willing to tackle tough topics, right? Mental health being one of them, along with all the other social injustices that are occurring. But to be honest, it's part of the reason that I wanted to be part of the organization so badly was because I knew I could be myself. I knew that there'd be a safe space to be a human being before I was a coach. And over the last 2 years, I actually saw that sports has actually helped me in my mental health and created safe spaces, especially since my suicide attempt in 2019. The first thing that the guys on the team back in Reno ask is, what can I do to help you, to support you? The president, same thing. My head coach, same thing. And so I think there's a big, growth of taking away like the toxic masculinity that exists in sports. I think you see people putting an arm around each other and saying, I'm here for you. I'm not going to judge you for who you are as a person, as a human being. In fact, I want to be next to you, especially when you're facing challenges. So I've been fortunate to be part of organizations that have supported me as a human being before a coach.
That's powerful because, as I said, prior to this question, it's that not all sports organizations prioritize that, and it is about performing. It is about, what can you do for me on the field? What money can you make for me? How can you produce for me? It's not, I'm gonna treat you and love you as a human. So, yeah, the Roots are special in so many ways. This question's for both of you. I'll start with Nana. What would you want to say to any young person who is listening today about mental health? What would you want to say?
It's cool to be vulnerable.
Okay, I'm gonna be inappropriate for a second. It's kind of sexy. Anyway, go ahead, Nana.
No, it's real. I felt growing up it wasn't cool to me. The way I look at it is like, dude, who are you kidding?
Right.
We all go through things.
Right.
And a lot of my closest friends from back home now, it's like we sit there and we talk, and it's like they still have like, no, I'm good. Like, you're not good.
Right.
So tell me what's really going on, And it's like, as soon as kids of today realize like this is normal, I'm here telling you guys like I've been through a lot of stuff, and I'm open to talking about it, and I don't care what you think about me. It's just like, this is how I feel. I would like you all to know, and how can I help you? Because you're gonna go through stuff too, So for the kids watching, it's cool to be vulnerable. It's okay to have feelings.
Yep.
Listen, Chris knows. I say it all the time. Growing up, I feel like I had no feelings, and I was talking to some of my closest friends the other day, and I realized I'm emotional. I'm super emotional, And this is something you would never hear come from my mom 10 years ago. But I am, and what? You gonna judge me? That's fine, But I want the kids of today to know, listen, it's okay to talk about your feelings, to have feelings, express yourself. That's what I would say.
How did you get to this very confident place? How did you evolve to this place to feel like that?
Well, I would like to think I've always been confident. I've never really cared what people thought about me. What I would say is in my culture, just having emotions of being sad, and that wasn't normal. And it got to a place last year where I realized like I needed help, like I needed to talk to people about what I'm feeling. And a therapist I saw last year who, I give all the credit for, she basically told me it's okay, and the more I saw her, the more I realized like, this is what it is. You didn't judge me for having feelings. Like, I don't really care, So I'm super open about talking about this stuff, and the more kids I talk to, the more I realize like as long as I can express to them how okay it is, the more accepting they are that they have feelings also. It's about helping.
Especially Black men, right?
Black men.
It sounds like you're trying to be for youth what you wish someone could have been for you.
Yeah. Black and brown men need, our communities have been affected in so many ways. And we've also been taught to bury everything. You're not allowed to feel that. This is the one that gets me the most. Like, you're not allowed to feel that. Who are you to tell me what I'm allowed to feel, right?
I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Chris, what would you want to say to any young person who's listening today about mental health?
I'm actually going to slide in here. I want to make this very personal to someone. I apologize if I kind of break down here.
No, you're good.
To anyone that's listening right now, that's challenged, that struggles, the best way you can care and love other people is to love yourself. It's so important to know that people are here for you. If you think that a challenge and you're exhausted and you're tired, the biggest thing that you can tell yourself and remind yourself is that somebody needs you tomorrow. Someone is relying to be here, or relying for you to be here tomorrow for them. Whether it's a phone call, a text message, a high five, a hug in the morning. So if you are challenged, if you are at that breaking point like I was in 2019, remind yourself that you are loved. And that, for me, is the most important message I could tell to anyone that's listening that might be at that breaking point. So please, please, take care of yourself, your mental health, and reach out. One thing that was said to me was that someone would rather get a phone call at 2 a.m. than have to read your obituary at 7 a.m. So that, for me, that's the one message. If anyone out there, if one person is listening, please know that someone needs you here tomorrow.
Chris, thank you so much. I want to give you a hug. Is that okay? You good? Are you sure? I'm like, COVID, I hate it. I don't want to touch you. Okay. You're my boy, you know that. Nana, what have you learned about yourself as a human as you become more aware of your own mental health? You as a human man.
I can't do it all myself. Again, I used to think that I've lost people, you know. I would get a phone call at 6 p.m., you know, so-and-so has passed away. I would hang up the phone, and literally before I even feel sad about losing that person, I tell myself, I'll be able to get through this without crying. And I would trick my mind into believing I'm okay. And it got to a point where I realized that, again, I'm not okay. I need people to help me feel better. And I realized over the last couple of years that I'm not as strong as I thought I was at all. And you know, and that, again, I'm comfortable saying that. It doesn't mean I'm a weak person. I need people. You know, I need people to make me. I need to talk to people.
We all do.
Exactly.
We're social beings. We all do.
But I used to believe I wasn't, right? And I would just deal with everything internally, and it's not healthy. So one thing I would say I learned about myself through all of this is that I'm normal. I need people. I'm emotional, and I've accepted that.
Chris, you just gave a very powerful statement to the youth in our communities. What was the overwhelming emotion that you experienced when you did that?
I mean, it just brought me back to January 6th of 2019, when it was going to be my last day. And January 7th, I was awake. And I found myself in a hospital. And I just think about all the people that would have been absolutely destroyed had the suicide attempt completed. So that message is, yeah, it's out to other people, but it's a constant reminder to myself that the ripple effects is real. That a permanent solution to a short-time challenge is not worth it. And sometimes people don't realize, like, oh, they'll be okay without me. I mean, I remember just thinking about that when I was hospitalized. Like, what am I doing? Like, how could I do that? And that's why, if I love people so much, why would I put them in that position? You know, and so that's the biggest thing. Is it's a constant reminder for me as well that because I'm here today, it doesn't mean that the challenges stop.
Right.
It's it's taking the steps before I hit that breaking point again. It's making sure that I'm taking my meds every day. It's making sure that I'm going to my therapy. It's making sure that I'm seeing my psychiatrist. It's making sure that I'm not deflecting emotions and feelings and accepting that I live with bipolar disorder. And it's important for me to remind myself that my illness, my diagnosis does not define me. It's how I handle those things defines me.
That's right.
And yeah, that's kind of where that comes from, is that because I love the people around me so much, I need to care for myself to show that I love and care for them.
I appreciate that. Just like any physical illness, that doesn't define anyone. It's a part of something then they have to learn about and know how to manage it and keep themselves healthy. No different with mental illness. So I appreciate you saying that a lot. Do you think this would be a good time to break down with people a little bit about what bipolar disorder 2 is?
Yeah, if you want, you can give the clinical, the DSM-5
right.
definition, and be more than happy to share my experiences living with BPD too.
Awesome. I mean, I'm not going to get too clinical on it because I don't want to lose people, but this is an opportunity to bring awareness around these different kinds of diagnoses that can occur. There's different kinds of depression, and then there's 2 types of bipolar depression. What Chris lives with every day and has to be on point and mindful about how he takes care of himself is called bipolar 2 disorder, where there is a period of a depressive episode of 2 weeks. Just experiencing that one time in your life qualifies for a depressive episode, which is a bunch of symptoms and criteria that include feeling sad, having insomnia or hypersomnia, feeling hopeless, feeling suicidal, acting on the feelings of suicide, feeling like there's just no hope. And it happens every day for 2 weeks, to the point where you can't function at the level that you used to before. So if there's one episode like that, that meets part of the criteria. The other criteria piece of it is a hypomanic episode. Hypo meaning below or under. So it's a little less severe than a manic episode, and it's less severe in that it only lasts 4 days versus 7 days consecutively, and that's the episode. And in that episode occurs like a need for not as much sleep as usual, a sort of an angst or a buzz, being very goal-driven, which can be attractive to some people depending on their work or their life. They like that. So sometimes it's hard to want to have that be different because it helps them accomplish things in life. But with all of these symptoms together in a hypomanic episode, the big thing is that it impacts social relationships and occupational functioning to the point where it's not optimal anymore. And that those 4 days, you probably get maybe 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night, if that. You're out possibly doing dangerous behaviors. You're not able to control the energy. So that's a little bit from the clinical side of the bipolar 2. There's a bipolar 1. It's a manic episode, not a hypomanic. So it's a little bit more severe, and it lasts for 7 days consecutively. Okay, so we want to bring awareness to that. And so if Chris wants to speak some more about what it's like to live with bipolar 2, I'm welcome to hear that. I think people would appreciate it. Share whatever you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I think you hear these definitions, you get diagnosed, and suddenly everything's like, oh, I won't be able to do this, I won't be able to do that. But it's about finding the right tools, and one of those tools is my therapist, and channeling things. Like you talked about the hypomania, 4 or 5 days. And part of the reason I run so much is because I found a way that, rather than finding something that's addictive in the sense of, like drugs or alcohol, my addiction is the release of the energy and that running brings to me. And so, I laugh at it sometimes, and how can I run for 20-something hours? I'm like, well, that's the benefit of having bipolar 2 disorder. How are you able to work so much? Well, that's part of the, You know, with every negative, there's some positives, and
Absolutely.
And it's finding those symptoms and channeling them so that you can function. Nana works with me every single day, and he sees how much I can turn out, you know. And one of the things that I've learned is that with depression, because it's not so much. It's not so much like if you're in the ocean, right? Like you don't worry about not drowning. You learn how to surf, right? To ride the waves. And so for me, it's you learn how to surf, you know, because the waves are gonna come.
Right.
So if you know how to surf, then you know how to ride the waves.
Right.
Which is funny because I use that as an analogy, but I hate going. But no, that's what it is that because, like you mentioned, it's a depressive wave and then hypomanic wave. And so if you can manage those, and to be honest, the biggest challenging part for me is the in-between. In fact, I just had a therapy appointment the other day. Whenever I'm in the quote-unquote normal flat line, you know, that's for me, to be honest, is the hardest thing because like I don't really have to manage anything.
Right.
So, but you know, like I said earlier, is that I'm not bipolar. I live with bipolar, and it's learning how to manage the cycles. And never will I use it as an excuse to not be able to perform at the highest possible level. But the way I'm able to do that is using my tools, journaling. You know, when I have bad days, I call them emotional dumps, where I literally dump everything that's in my head onto a piece of paper. You know, I even have, excuse my language, but I even have sections in my journal that shit I wanted to say.
Right. Yep.
And I write it in there because it's not good to keep that in.
Totally, because just because you can't say it doesn't mean you can't express it.
Correct.
And you found a way to do that.
Yeah.
That works for you, so that's amazing and awesome.
So yeah, I mean, from a day-to-day living with the challenges that it presents itself, it's not easy. I mean, I don't want to sound like, oh, it's just easy to manage it, but it's finding the right tools and using those tools in the toolbox, you know, to when it needs to, and most importantly, asking for help when it's things that I can't manage my own or myself. I need to ask for help, and that's something I've learned over the last couple of years.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that a lot. Nana, what would you want folks to know about how they can be aware of their mental health, not just this month in Mental Health Awareness Month, but this month and beyond?
Check in with yourself. How are you feeling today? You know, for me, and for a lot of people that I speak to, is this just being numb feeling. You know, like when I felt I was going through a lot of stuff, like I wouldn't say I was angry, sad. I didn't know what I felt. You know, and I would express this to people like, I don't know what I feel right now. For me, that's the biggest sign that you need to just check out. Go sit in a corner by yourself and just, what's going on with yourself? For me, I felt numb. You know, like I said, I wasn't angry, I wasn't sad. It was just like, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to talk to anyone. I remember there was days like I said earlier, me and my mom were best friends. My dad is my best friend. And she would call me and it's like, I don't want to talk right now. That's when I knew there was something going on with me, right? So I would just say reset. It's okay to turn off your phone and disconnect, but take care of yourself. Like, we live in a world where go. You know, last year, COVID slapped everybody. Nobody was prepared for that. So like, it's okay to just go sit somewhere and not talk to anyone. You know, I'm at a point where my mental health, my peace is the most important thing to me. I'll cut off anybody to protect my peace, right? So I feel if people can, and I know it's not easy, I can sit here and say just go disconnect, it's not always that easy, but this is real, you know, when you're feeling stuff, figure out what it is and take care of it.
Absolutely. Chris, you've talked very openly about being a suicide survivor. What does that mean to you?
First, it means I'm lucky. It means I'm lucky. I mean, I remember few things. I don't remember a lot around that time, but I remember a doctor in the emergency room saying, whatever it is, you're lucky to be here. My psychiatrist, same thing. She said, how are you still here? So, to be a suicide attempt survivor, to be here as a human being, I mean, we're all fortunate for that, but to have a second chance at life, one thing I've learned is that we can't take anything for granted. We can't take anything, even the simplest things. The opportunity to call a friend and say, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. The opportunity to check in. The opportunity to give someone a hug. The opportunity to say I love you to your partner. We should never ever take those for granted. For me, that's the biggest thing, is that enjoy every single moment, because nothing's ever guaranteed. And that moment is so unique, and we need to embrace that. And being a suicide attempt survivor also, that's where I became outspoken about mental health and so forth, is that I want people to know that they're not alone.
Yeah.
Because that's how I felt for such a long time.
Yeah.
And so it's two-part. It's to share my story, not so much that it's my experience, but it's to let people know that the things that they might feel don't exist, they do.
Yes.
And so that's why I share my story, and yeah, that's basically it.
I know we've spoken before about this topic, and I know you feel very strongly about if your story touches one person, then that's your day right there, if not your year. that's so important to you. So I'm sure it has. So I do want to note to people to remember, you're not alone. There are resources out there. For anyone who wants to talk about thoughts you or someone are having about mental health, call or chat the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're not alone. A couple more questions for you guys. The title of our talk today is Love Your Mind. Nana, how do you love your mind?
That's a great question. For me, my mind, like I said, my mind and my peace, most important things in my life. Before I love soccer. Before soccer, my mind and my peace is the most important. And I was telling Chris this actually the other day, like, as much as I love soccer would never bring me to a point of where I was at last year. If that means I have to step away from the game, that's what I would do. I didn't retire because I was going to retire because it was time, but like I said, love your mind to me means everything. It affected my family, my relationships, and that was my mind, what was going on in my mind. Like, I remember I had people call me like, what am I doing wrong? It's not you. It's actually just me, what I'm dealing with, So for me, it's like, my mind is the most important thing to me. I hope people watching this can learn that, like, I have a family member, very close family member, who would put other people's needs before his own. And with everything I went through last year, I sat down and talked to him, like this is a cousin of mine. I'm just like, I understand you love helping others, but you're not in a good place mentally. So what can you do to prevent? And he just came up and said, I need to disconnect. I need to stop being so, and that's okay. Your mind is so important for me. So that's what love your mind means for me.
Okay.
Just protect that peace by all means.
Yes. Chris, for you, what does it mean for you to love your mind?
It's about being present. So I think that's one thing that, as a society, as Nana mentioned, it's a go society. We've avoided being present. And one of the other things why I love running so much, especially trails. So there's a mantra that went from running to how I kind of approach life is be where your feet are. Because in trail running, if you look down the trail, there might be a tree root, and you might kick that root, and you might fall. So in running, you have to literally feel where your feet are. So you got to be so present. And then I started thinking, like, if I ask Nana, how's your day going? A few years ago, I would have already been like, oh, he's gonna say it's good, and go here. So being present for me as an individual, that allows my mind to really engage with someone else's. And for me, that's what it is. That's the way of your mind, is to be as present as possible. Because again, it goes back to each experience we have with another human being is unique in that moment. Yeah, I might see Nana tomorrow at practice, but it's not the same day. It's not the same moment.
Right.
And so, loving my mind is about being present.
Love it. I love it. For both of you, Nana first. What are the top 3 ways you take care of your own mental health? Why are you laughing? What are the top 3 ways?
You're not going to believe this one. I have one go-to. I'll go sit in a hot shower for hours. I was home, just a true story, listen to this. I was home 2 weeks when I moved back off season. My water bill, $600.
Wow.
That's what I do. I go and I sit in the shower and I just reflect. I think, there's been times where, especially last year, last year was tough for me. I lost a lot of people in my life. I'll go in there and I'll cry, and that's my peace. Another thing I do is I'll call my mom. I've opened up a lot with my mom. And third, which is kind of crazy, I'll just say 2, my dad also. Me and my dad have gotten extremely close over the past 2 years. It's just about mending relationships. There's a lot of people who've been affected by what's been going on with me. Like I said earlier, like I used to blame other people, but it wasn't them. It was just me. What was going on, I was dealing with internally. So mending relationships, I'll call people I haven't spoken to in years, and just catch up and talk about unnecessary things. But that's like therapy for me. And music.
What kind of music do you like, Nana?
I like a lot of lovers rock, reggae. Like Bob Marley and all that stuff. Music is a big one for me. I feel like it's a big one for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But, I'll put headphones on and just vibe out for a whole day. I'll lay in my. People think like, oh, you like staying home so much. Yeah, I do. It's peaceful. What? Like, I'll listen to music. So, for me, those are the 3 ways I take care of myself.
Well, what you're outlining are the 3 tenets of mental health. So emotional, psychological, and social well-being. And the 3 things you do address them all. So emotional well-being is knowing what you feel, taking time to connect with yourself, to know what your emotions are, and to label them, to say what they are. And then psychological well-being is being able to employ tools or practices that help you cope with the emotions. And so taking a hot shower is yours, right? And then social well-being is connecting with the people that you love. Connecting with people who love you, who you care about, who care about you in a genuine way. Like being able to really look you in the eye and say, how are you? And like to Chris's point, and being here to be able to receive that answer and be there. So thanks for that, that was awesome, really cool. Chris, how about you? What are the top 3 ways that you take care of your mental health?
Honestly, therapy is a big thing for me, because in that room or now behind a computer screen, it's the safest place for me to be as vulnerable as I need to be, without any judgment. So therapy is a big part for caring for my mental health. Journaling is the other, and the third is running. I've mentioned running several times through this conversation, but those 3 things are tools in my toolbox I know, you know, journaling and running are two things I can do, whether we're on the road or in an airport on a bus. You know, I can journal. I have that. In my work bag, I keep my journal. I always keep it with me. So journaling is probably the one, the big go-to. That and running, I think, too.
Love it. What is it about running? Where do you go when you're running yourself? Like, what is it about it?
Well, I can feel all the feels. Like I said earlier, it was like,
You can feel all the feelings.
be where my feet are. Be where my feet are. And it's not about distance, it's not about pace. It's about exploring the world and then realizing the beauty that in the world that we do exist. There's a lot of things that can be negative. You know, like Donna said, sometimes you got to detach and do a digital detox. Well, running is also so unique. You know, like you get to see this beautiful tree that you're running by. That tree, because of a storm, may not be there. So you have to you get to enjoy that peaceful moment on a trail. You get to see wildlife in their true environment. So for me, that's running is that. Or even in the cities, right? Running downtown or whatever. You hear cars, you hear people, you know, on their bikes and stuff like that. It's just there without any judgment. I think that's the biggest thing why running is so peaceful for me.
I love it. So for you, it's finding your peace, and running is the thing.
Yeah.
So it can be different for everyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, I it would be amiss if I didn't answer this question for myself. I was writing my own notes here about what I do for myself. The mindfulness, meditation. I use the Calm app, CALM, and they have like a 10-minute daily calm. My insurance pays for it, so if that's something you guys want to check out, CALM. I also do goal setting. So simple ones for the day that I prioritize. So I can do like, when I get up, I take care of myself, and then I get situated and I sit and I am quiet for a moment. Okay, what are the top 3 things that I would like to choose to do today that would make me feel proud, fulfilled? And then I write them down, and then as I go about them, I check them off. And then I have to make sure that I say at least one thing I'm grateful for before I go to sleep. And I might even say what I'm grateful for in each of my family members throughout the day, or at least give like a hug or a kiss. There has to be something good that's come from COVID. There has to be. And for me, it's being able to be close to my family, for my kids to be home. Don't get me wrong, that's not always amazingly awesome, but I have access to them. We eat lunch together. I can hug them, I can hold them. And so I wanted to share that for sure. You know, especially to the youth out there, guys, it's hard to find that peace. It's hard to find that quiet and that mindful state, especially with technology, social media, on your phones. What are the ways you'd like to encourage others to love their mind? What thoughts come to you when I ask that?
Prioritize yourself. The most important person in your life is you. To me, that's the answer for how to love your mind, is make you a priority. It's not selfish.
Okay.
It's not selfish to love yourself. So to love your mind should be the most important thing in anyone's life.
What does prioritizing mean exactly? When you say prioritize yourself, break that down for everyone who's listening. What does that mean?
If a relationship is toxic, it's okay to walk away from that. If you need to stay at home while a group of your friends go out, hey, I need to do what's best for myself. I need to stay at home and just kind of kick it by myself. It's okay to say no. Yep. But to me, that's prioritizing and loving yourself.
I love it. One of my mentors told me years ago, saying no is the same thing as saying I love you to yourself. Right? And the way we have to prioritize ourselves only when we know how we're feeling. So we can't make a decision about going out with our friends if we can't check in and be mindful and know where we're at to be able to make that decision. So I think that's really great. What ways would you like to encourage others to love their mind on that?
I would say exactly what Chris said. And I said earlier, like, put yourself first. And I'll give you guys an example. I was in a relationship, with someone, and while I was going through all my stuff, I would, it wasn't comfortable for this other person. And it got to a point where this person said, I need to put myself first. And I never understood what that meant. And I told her, what does that mean? What are you trying to tell me? Until obviously I went through all this stuff, I started going to therapy, and my therapist explained what it meant. Put yourself first, like you said. Like, if you need to leave a toxic relationship, you gotta do that. Family included. I've had family members where I had to, I can't be in the sexual energy, the space no more. And people say, well, that's family. Well, no, again, my mental health is the most important thing to me. Until you understand what that means, you'll never understand the peace that comes with it. So I would say exactly what Chris said. At some point, you gotta put yourself first, and to me, that's the most. I said it over and over again. The most important thing is putting your mind first.
How about the sport performance piece? So, there's probably some athletes out there listening who are interested in this part. Like, how does mental health, mindset, and sport performance influence each other? I mean, my approach, you can choose your mindset and then put that into the world when your mental health is sound, and then you can perform in life and in your sport optimally, right? So how does maintaining optimal mental health influence how you perform as an athlete?
For me, it's in college or through high school and college, you hear about student athletes, right? What's the priority there? The education.
It's not athlete-student, right?
How come post-college, we never say human athlete?
Oh.
So if our mind's not right as a human being, we can't perform as an athlete. We can't perform as a coach. So for me, it's making the resources available that will help the human before the athlete. Lifting weights to best perform yourself for the upcoming game or upcoming season means nothing if your mind's not right. So for me, that's where the mental health and sport performance come into play. If we can't provide the resources for the human, we're never going to maximize the potential of the athlete. So we need to look at it as human athletes, not just, okay, college is done, student athlete, you're done. You're just an athlete.
Right.
So for me, that's where the two play an integral part with one another.
I love it. Did you want to add anything, Nana, to that?
See, this topic is very deep for me, especially being just a recently retired athlete.
Yeah.
Before I even answer that question, I want fans to know, athletes you go watch are human beings first. Chris, you've been a coach for a ton. Fans sometimes, not all the time, sometimes look at athletes as just performers.
Yeah.
Like we don't go through things.
Yeah.
I lost my grandmother in 2011, a day of a game actually. Day of a game. I had no time to process that, and I had to go play. I'm not there mentally. Nobody's gonna be there mentally.
Right.
Fans don't care about that. So I would encourage fans watching, just look at athletes as humans.
Yes.
That are doing what they love. And to answer your question, like Chris said, mental health is everything with athletes. And I don't care what anybody says. If an athlete isn't okay mentally, they're not going to perform. For me, my best years as a pro were years where, and I used to say, the years where I said I don't care was when I performed the best. Now I'm knowing everything I know, what I was really saying was, when I just focus on what mattered to me and myself, I don't care what Chris thinks about me. I don't care what we say. That's when I perform my best. That's all just mental health.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So for me, it's that took me years to realize. But once I got there, and I give this advice to all of these kids now, play like you don't care. Because when you do that, it's like that's when you'll perform. But when you're thinking about what Lisa and Chris thinks about, you're done. You know, you've already lost the battle. So again, coaches, you know, team owners, fans, even teammates, the athlete's mind first. You know, just a simple "How are you today?" You know, if you make a mistake, it's okay.
Yeah.
Those little things go such a long way. So for me, like mental health, for me, if you want your athletes to perform, you don't need to go get them the $1 million kids. Just give them the resources to be good mentally.
Yes.
They'll be okay.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Athletes are humans first. It's the occupation that they chose. Just like I chose to be a therapist. You know, everyone. I'm not defined by that. So it's so important to be able to see athletes, treat athletes as human, with flaws, with imperfections, with needs. Let's see. I think it'd be good. I'd like us to be in the practice of let's say what we're grateful for right now, and I'm going to share some resources with the folks. What are we grateful for in this moment, right now, while we're here together?
I'll start this. I'm just grateful for this opportunity to, again, for me, being vulnerable, every time I'm able to be vulnerable, especially where I'm coming from, I'm always grateful for it. Because I feel like when I'm vulnerable and I talk about, you know, my weaknesses, my struggles, it helps me become better. So that's what I'm grateful for in this very moment. I'm grateful for my family. Like I said, COVID's been tough. Last year was extremely tough. I'm very grateful for my relationships. I got to reconnect with people who mattered. I used to play it out like they didn't matter because I wanted to be tough. But I'm very grateful for them because they've helped me on this journey as well. You know, and to be honest, there's people in my life right now that I needed to reconnect with to be able to get to where I want to go. So I'm very grateful for those people.
Thanks, Nana. How about you, Chris? What are you grateful for in this moment?
I'm grateful for being here. That's first and foremost. I'm grateful for being here. Like I said, 2.5 years ago, I don't know, someone in the universe, or the universe said it's not your time to go.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for being able to wake up every morning. That is the most important things that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for my family, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have a platform that's allowed me to address a topic that hopefully, as we continue to talk about mental health and mental illness and the challenges and suicide prevention, that we can knock down the walls where we can talk about this in school. We can create programs that are peer-to-peer where it's okay. Like, let's say I call Nana. Let's say we're in elementary school. I call Nana. I don't feel right. I don't know what I want to do next. Where he is comfortable enough to have that awkward conversation. So I'm grateful for this, for the platform that's been created through soccer, because for me, sports is a vehicle to impact society. And so I'm grateful for sports being here for me to be able to impact society, even if it's one person.
Yes.
Sorry, I want to add one more thing.
Yeah, go for it.
And another thing that I know Chris and I are very grateful for that we didn't say is the Oakland Roots.
Yes.
You know, like if it wasn't for the Roots last summer who allowed me to finally realize it's okay to be human and feel things and express things, I wouldn't have done that. And me and Chris talk about this all the time. Like we worked and played for some, the bigger organizations, and a lot of them are great. All of them are great, to be honest. But to give us a platform like the Roots have given us, it doesn't happen very often. And they're kind of pioneers, really, in what we're, with the whole Nurture Roots program and stuff. So I am very grateful for the people at this club and just giving us this platform to do this. I
agree. The Nurture Roots came about by listening to the athletes about their needs, listening to what they wanted. and then it was created, and you pioneered that. You were at the leadership of it. So it's so amazing that the athletes who are humans have that ability and that say. I mean, I'm grateful for this moment, just being able to breathe. I'm grateful to share space with both of you. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be a part of the Oakland Roots family in this way, because some of you may or may not know, we haven't talked about it much, but I grew up playing soccer. I got injured. And as any young elite athlete, they're always going to want to be like, I want to play at the highest level. I got injured, and my dreams of playing pro, whatever that looked like, didn't come true as a player. But check it out, I'm a pro in soccer. I'm a professional here with the Oakland Roots, being able to share my wisdom, my personal experience, to help others. And that's my purpose, that's what this is about. So I appreciate the opportunity, I'm so grateful for it. And with that, I want to share some resources with whoever's listening. So I'm going to turn a little bit away from Chris and Nana right now, and I want to talk to everyone who's out there. Remember, you can call or chat the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. This resource is available for anyone who wants to talk. You can also text the word HOME, H-O-M-E, to 741-741, or by Facebook Messenger. You'll also get someone that you can chat with. Other resources you could explore if you want to learn more about your own self-awareness, your own mental health, is if at your workplace you can learn about the insurance that you carry and what benefits that they offer. You can learn about an employee assistance program. It's called EAP, and that some employers offer a flexible spending account, which is an account put to the side pre-tax that you can use for therapy. So learning about that from your employer and from your human resources department would be a great way to start. Other resources are psychologytoday.com. You can filter for your region, the specialties, gender, anything that you're interested in, and they'll pop up. Here in this county, Alameda County Behavioral Services is www.acbhcs, again, Alameda County Behavioral Health Services. A resource that Chris turned me on to is inclusivetherapists.com. All one word, inclusivetherapists.com. There are also such resources as therapyforblackgirls.com, therapyforblackmen.org, latinxtherapy.com, and then it's a long acronym, so bear with me, I'll say it slow. NAAPIMHA.org. And those are services for Asian Americans, Native, Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. And the Trevor, T-R-E-V-O-R project, the trevorproject.org. That's specifically for the communities of the LGBTQIA+, youth, allies, friends, and families. So that could be for anyone within those communities there. So we are short on time. I want to give the guys one more chance to say anything they have on their heart, and I'll have my closing remarks for everyone. Anything else, guys, that you wanted to say to anyone out there? Final words.
Yeah, the biggest thing I can just close off on and share is that whoever's listening, going back to my message earlier, tomorrow needs you. Tomorrow needs you. And so if the day is challenging, maybe the goal is make it to midnight. But tomorrow needs you. So be here tomorrow, find the resources to keep you here. And it's a challenge, but it's for the people that you love.
Thanks, Chris.
For me, I would say, especially to the youth, to everyone, but especially to the youth, it's okay to express yourself. Express yourself with confidence, and more importantly, when they do express themselves, please listen. You know, it's very important that we listen when people express what they're feeling. You know, don't just listen. Just be there to listen and give them, you know, a person to talk to. I really wanna emphasize that, especially to the youth. You know, express yourself. It's okay to have feelings, and don't let anybody tell you what you're allowed to feel.
Yes. We thank you all for joining us in this conversation today. I want to thank Nana and Chris, especially for sharing so deeply and so personally. It means everything. And we at the Oakland Roots Sports Club, we wish you all a good night.